friends, welcome to the National Resource Center on Social and Rural Development, Dr. Hari Singh Gaur, Central University, Sagar. I, Shalini Choitrani, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce, Dr. Hari Singh Gaur, Central University, Sagar, today would be discussing on the topic Rural Development in India, Weak Links. In the previous session, we learnt about the strengths that the rural India is enjoying. Some of these strengths were the agricultural production and its allied activities and their contribution to the GDP, the unexplored market of the rural segment of our country, the potential for tourism growth in India, the rare herbs, the medicinal herbs that are available in rural India and are required for a number of curing diseases across the world. Today's session will speak about as where did we miss the bus, as what are the weaknesses that are persisting in the rural India. Speaking about the objectives of today's session are to discuss the weak links affecting the pace of rural development and lastly, to propose the suggestions for overcoming these weak links in order to achieve the sustainable growth. The overview of the entire session would be, I would be beginning with the introductory part, moving on to the next one, that is what is the need for rural development, certain facts about the rural development that has taken place in India so far, rural development, weak links, the proposed suggestions from my part, and lastly, the conclusion. As we all know that more than half of the population of the country is living in its rural areas and is engaged in agriculture, and agriculture is their main occupation, contributing significantly to the growth of the nation. India's agricultural production shares a 15 to 20% in the gross domestic product of the country. That is why the development of rural areas of the country has always been a top priority of the government. Apart from it, the rural India contributes significantly to the manufacturing as well as the service sector of the country. This can be seen in the policies and programs which are designed for rural India. And in order to have our country's social, economic and political development, rural development is must, rather it is the need of the hour. Moving on to further, what we strongly feel is that the policies, the programs, the major policy decisions that were taken for rural India have not reaped the benefits which they were desired to, which they were intended to. Somehow the problem occurs in the drafting of the policies. Majority of the policies that were drafted for rural India were actually supply driven. Rather, they should have been demand driven. That is, drafting the policies as per the need of the rural requirement, as what the rural India actually wants. This has led to a number of challenges that rural India is witnessing today. Rural India is the strength of India. As Mahatma Gandhi has said, India lives in its villages. And if we wish to see India as a developing nation, the rural development has to take place. Moving on to as what is the need for rural development. The very first requirement of rural development is to reduce the imbalances of growth. Certain areas of the country are highly developed, whereas the rural India, which is the strength of our country, has been neglected so far. So the imbalances of the rural and urban has always pose a challenge towards the policymakers. The next need for rural development is to provide a socio-economic equity in the country. The rural people have all the right to enjoy the same societal status, the same economic status with increased number of livelihood opportunities like that of the urban people. Our country is blessed with a number of natural resources, and the villages of our country are the hub of the natural resources. Apart from it, the rural India has 70% of the workforce of the entire sectors of the economy, be it primary sector, be it secondary sector, be it tertiary sector. The man and material which is available in abundance in the rural areas, in order to have their effective and efficient utilization, we need to have the development of rural India. Sustainable growth, a buzzword today. The growth has to be inclusive, the growth has to be sustainable, the growth has to be in such a manner in which there is equal participation of both the urban India and the rural India. Thus, in order to achieve the sustainable growth, we need to grow the rural India. And lastly, as we all know that villages are the source of continuation of India's rich culture and tradition. If we wish India's culture to go for long, if we wish to sustain our culture, if we wish to have a control over our tradition, if we wish to sustain it, we need to save our villages. So the next need for rural development is to retain India's rich culture and tradition through its villages. Now, speaking about certain facts of rural development in India. The manufacturing sector in rural India contributes about 18% to the rural output, but employs only 8% of the rural workforce. The NSSO data shows that more than 1/5 of the rural households with self-employment in agriculture have income less than the poverty line. The rate of literacy in rural India is much lower as compared to that of urban areas, despite so many efforts of the government. About 50% of the villages of India do not have provision of safe drinking water, access to the road connectivity, and many more. Now, moving further, rural development in India, the weak links. The very first is lack of research and development. As we all know that research and development are the basis of the growth of any nation. If we speak about the research and development in rural areas, the research and development linked to the betterment of rural areas, we are far behind the developed nations of the world. Moving on to the next one, low digitalization. We have heard a lot about Digital India campaign of the government. The Indian government is putting so much efforts to make the entire society a digitally strong, a digitally empowered society, in order to bring about transparency in the system, in order to make the benefits of all the government transfers reach the rural people, the beneficiaries. The government is bringing about digitalization. The benefits of digitalization are not limited only to the village. They are more related to the farmers. Many initiatives of government like National Agricultural Market, a virtual market which has electronic connectivity of all the mandis, all the agricultural mandis of India, is something which is related to digitalization in order to empower our farmers. But in order to achieve the benefits of Digital India campaign, we need to educate our rural people in a digital manner. But unfortunately, the digital literacy in India is very low. It is mainly because of the reach of internet, the approach of the rural people, and many more reasons are there. But if we wish to empower our villages, if we want to convert them into smart villages, digitalization is the need of the hour. But there somehow we miss. The level of digital literacy in rural India is very low. That has to be taken care of very seriously. Moving on to the next one, that is weak human capital base. As I spoke earlier, that Indian villages are blessed with huge population, but unfortunately the human capital that exists in rural India somehow misses the skill, the required skill to make them employable in the industries, to make them efficient and usable as per the needs of the industries. The problem is the skills of rural India. If we wish to make India a digitally strong, a country with a better human capital base which can contribute to its development, we need to skill the youth of our country. No doubt, government has opened many skill development centers across the country, but the benefits have to reach to the rural youth especially, because unemployment severely persists in the rural India. The number of people who are engaged in agricultural activities find it as their primary occupation. What about when they do not engage themselves in the agricultural activity? What about when they migrate to urban areas? That leads to urbanization. Somehow we have to develop the skills of rural youth in order to retain them within the villages, in order to make them as per the specific skills of industry's requirement. The next problem, or rather the challenge that exists in rural India, is the retention of workforce in agriculture. As we all know that about 64 to 68% of our country's population is engaged in agriculture, a highly unorganized kind of employment. Agriculture highly depends upon monsoon, crop cultivation, climate change, and if the agriculture production goes down, the farmer is left with no option to earn livelihood. That is why he, along with his family, thinks of moving towards the urban areas. That leads to urbanization and leaving villages in lurch. So, in order to retain the workforce of our country in agriculture, we need to have strong policies, strong projects, strong programs which are connected to the research and development in order to increase the agricultural productivity. We need to make agriculture so profitable that the village people, especially the village youth, would like to continue it as a family's tradition, an occupation which can give him a good earning, a good source of livelihood within the premises of the village. The next challenge is limited existence of non-farm activities. Villages, even though are blessed with ample natural resources, but we need to have more number of non-farming activities along with the agriculture activities, because this will help in dealing with the unemployment problem, the problem of not having employment opportunities, not having livelihood opportunities within the village. We need to focus on non-farming activities, especially the development of infrastructural facilities such as road construction, mining, horticulture, fishing. Many more activities are there which can be continued along with the agriculture and can prove a better source of livelihood to the village people. The other challenge is urbanization. As the previous 2 points speaks about the problem of employability, the challenge of earning livelihood, what if the agriculture fails? That is the very reason there is a big problem of migration from villages towards the urban areas. People in villages are not interested in living with their families. In order to earn livelihood, they move to the urban areas of the country. That has led to the urbanization, a high level of urbanization in the country. And we all know that what are the problems of urbanization. If urbanization takes place at a high pace, the urban areas will see more of corruption, pollution, flooded with a lot of population and many more challenges. The next weakness that we see in the rural areas are the water management techniques. The village people still do not have access to safe and pure drinking water. They are prone to a number of waterborne diseases because of non-availability of pure and safe drinking water. The agriculture, apart from the daily requirement of water for the household activities, the water is required for cultivation. As India is a predominantly agrarian society, agricultural based economy, water is needed for better cultivation. Water is needed for meeting the daily needs of household activities. But unfortunately, the rural India has no good water management techniques. They are highly dependent on underground water, and the access to underground water through bore wells and other means is available only to the moneylenders of the villages. Think about what happens to the poor rural people who do not have access to the safe and pure drinking water. Apart from that, no water for irrigating his fields. Cleanliness. We have heard a lot about Swachh Bharat mission of the Indian government. Cleanliness is next to godliness. It is equal to worshipping God. But Indian rural areas are having no provision of waste management and are prone to a lot of dirtiness and shitter. There are no provisions of waste management. Cleanliness, if is not there, makes the rural people vulnerable to a number of diseases. The open defecation, no provision of waste management exposes them to a number of diseases, which reduces their efficiency and capability to earn their livelihood. And apart from that, if cleanliness generates diseases, no better medical facilities in the rural areas make them all the more vulnerable towards the number of diseases. The next challenge is sanitation. As I spoke, people in rural India, even though government has spent a lot of money on construction of toilets in the rural areas, but the problem is rural India doesn't want to use it. Even if toilets are there, they are reluctant to use it because of the problem of waste treatment. The problem is the approach and mindset of the rural people. We need to develop them, we need to teach them, we need to educate them that what are the benefits of using the toilets and what are the benefits of having cleanliness. The next challenge is banking. Even though the Indian government has made applaudable efforts to bring the entire country, the entire population of the country within the scope of banking sector through its GeM Trinity, Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and Mobile. A number of accounts, banking accounts have been opened under the Jan Dhan Yojana of the government. The government has appointed business correspondents to increase the reach of banking facilities. The government has opened banking kiosks, customer service points to make the banking facilities available within the rural areas. The government has enhanced loan facilities through Mudra Yojana, but the banking facilities need to reach the remotest areas of the country. Despite so many efforts, a huge population of the rural India does not wish to avail banking facilities. The main problem is of their approach. We need to educate them. We need to make them literate as what are the benefits of availing banking facilities, what are the benefits of having financial planning, what are the benefits of taking loans from the banks, not from the money lenders. So the banking sector has also to put a lot of efforts to convert this challenge into an opportunity. The next challenge is the infrastructure. As we all know that infrastructure is the lifeline of any economy. Infrastructure in terms of better road connectivity, postal departments, dams, bridges, etc., help in the development of any nation. No doubt the government has, through its Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, has improved the rural connectivity. But still there are a number of villages which are not well connected through the means of road. And we all know that since a lot of agricultural production is taking place in India, we are blessed with surplus production. But what if there are no facilities of road transportation, no better means of infrastructure to make that surplus production available within the markets, so that the farmer is in a position to sell the surplus to the entire nation and is able to earn better livelihood for himself and for his efforts. At the same time, if we speak about electricity, without electricity, we cannot think of industrialization. We cannot think of development. The electrification, even though is taking place at a very high pace in the Indian villages, but a large number of villages are still to be covered electrically. That is, we need to improve the status of electricity in those areas. Nowadays, agriculture is also becoming mechanized. So if we wish to have a sustainable agriculture, if we need to have better market access, if we want to provide a better platform to the farmer for selling his production, we need to improve infrastructure in terms of better road connectivity and better marketing facilities, etc. Next is health facilities. The health facilities, even though are improving, but we need to improve the road connectivity. We need to improve the health facilities. We need to make available health facilities available within the villages. A number of villagers die because of non-availability of health facilities in their area. This also happens because of poor connectivity. If we want to have a healthy India, if we want to have an efficient India, if we wish to have a better human capital base, we need to increase their efficiency, and efficiency is related directly to the health facilities. But a lot has to be done for improvising the health facilities within the rural areas. The next problem is low productivity in agriculture. As I spoke a number of times, that a huge population of our country depends highly on agriculture for earning their livelihood. But the agricultural productivity is declining constantly and has created an alarming situation. It has become a matter of concern for policymakers in India from past many years. The agriculture is the backbone of our country. No agriculture, no India. Agriculture is the biggest strength of our economy. It, apart from giving food supply, feeding the country, is a main source of livelihood, is a significant contributor to the GDP of our country. The agricultural productivity is declining like anything. The reasons are many. The reasons, naming a few reasons, are the soil erosion, degradation of soil quality, climatic changes, poor irrigation facilities, deterioration of agricultural production, and many more. So, if we wish to retain India's strength, we need to enhance the productivity of agriculture. No doubt, the government has bring about a number of projects, rather research and development projects, which are related to raising the productivity of agriculture. But we need to make agriculture a profitable, a sustainable business, so that the Indian farmer puts in a lot of effort for raising the productivity, and a lot is to be done to deal with the changing climatic conditions and to retain the quality of soil and to work about the soil erosion problems. The next big challenge is the poverty in Indian villages. As I talked earlier, a large population of country living in rural areas is combating with poverty. They are below poverty line. They are earning a meager amount. They do not have employment opportunities. They are struggling to feed their families. Poverty is reducing their efficiency. Poverty is making them vulnerable to a number of diseases such as malnutrition, reduced efficiency. Because of poverty, they are leaving agriculture. They are moving towards urban areas. That is increasing the challenges of urbanization. They have the problem of feeding their families. When agriculture doesn't take place, they move towards urban areas. They migrate towards urban areas and they engage themselves in the construction and other activities which exist in urban India. What if we have Indian villages which are having employment opportunities, sustainable opportunities, livelihood opportunities within the villages of the country? This will lead to retain the workforce within the villages and will help them to fight poverty, to overcome poverty in a better manner. The next problem again is connectivity. As I spoke earlier also, that infrastructure has to improve if we wish to have a sustainable development. The Indian villages are not well connected across the different states and to the different states of the country. We need to improve the connectivity of Indian villages. We need to connect them to different states of the country in order to provide a better platform to the Indian farmer for making his product ready for sale in the other areas of the country. Apart from it, connectivity is very important if we wish to draw the attention of the investors, because industries, manufacturing sector only would like to come and work in the rural India when there is better connectivity. So if no connectivity is there, we cannot think of having manufacturing and industrial sector making investment, coming to rural villages and providing employability. So in order to deal with employability, unemployment, poverty, we need to increase industrialization. We need to make investment in rural areas. For that, we need to have better connectivity in terms of road and public transportation. The last one is suggestions. In order to have sustainable rural development, there is a strong need to design strategies that help to overcome the weaknesses of rural areas and to provide opportunities to convert them into strengths in the time to come. The few suggestions to improvise the conditions of rural areas are: we need to increase the digital literacy in the rural areas. That requires the efforts of not the policymakers, but that also requires the efforts of the rural people also. They need to change their mindset. They need to make themselves digitally literate so that they can reap the benefits of different government yojanas and programs. Need to reduce the dependence of rural people on agriculture and farming activities. Ultimately, we need to increase the non-farming activities also in order to deal with the problems of unemployment and poverty. We need to increase the agricultural productivity so that the children of farmers undertake the agriculture and are able to earn a lot of money and a source of livelihood from it. We need to skill the rural population. That is, we need to skill them in a right manner. We need to skill them as per the requirement of the industries so that they can be absorbed in the industries, so that they become employable. We need to make farming a profitable activity, and it is also required to retain workforce in it. Apart from that, there is a strong need to have efficient water management techniques. Water management techniques includes rainwater harvesting, treatment of wastewater, and many water conservation techniques, because water, again, is required not only for meeting the daily requirements of the villagers, it is very much required for irrigating the fields of the farmers. The next is waste management. We need to have strong programs, policies of treating the waste which is generated by the rural villages, as they cannot remain unaffected because of the growing consumerism, because of the growing marketing. So we need to have strong waste management techniques in the rural India. We need to invest a lot in the infrastructural development in the rural areas in terms of connectivity, electricity, bridges, dams, public transportation. No infrastructure, no development. Infrastructural development is the utmost requirement of rural India in the present context. The last one is development of an entrepreneurial ecosystem in the rural areas, because our villages, Indian villages, have a lot of potential to have startups which are related to bio-waste management, agriculture and its allied activities. If we can develop a strong ecosystem for having startups within the premises of villages, within the periphery of villages, we can think of reducing the problem of employability. We can think of India becoming a hub of startups, and that would ultimately benefit the rural India. The suggestions mentioned are a few ways through which sustainable rural development can be achieved. Along with that, there is a strong need to design specific strategies, providing momentum to the rural development and making it an ongoing process, a process which continues, a process that sustains, so that the benefits of development are equally enjoyed by masses at large, with reduced social, economic and political imbalances in the country. Lastly, I would only say, if India has to grow, villages have to grow. And with this, I would like to conclude. Thank you.